Hey there! Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower-than-low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
99 days until Wyoming Cowboy football season, Jared. But first things first, do you have Nuggets fever?
Not really. I'm sure we've talked about it many times. You and I aren't NBA fans. Will I watch? Yeah, I'll pay attention.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stare at the TV for 48 minutes, but I will watch the games here and there.
You know what? You grew up in Wyoming too. Obviously closer to South Dakota. I grew up down here in Cheyenne. The Nuggets, I think, I never had any feeling toward the Nuggets whatsoever. And I did used to love the NBA. And I think you did too. Jordan days,
Larry Bird,
yeah,
Julius
absolutely.
Erving, absolutely.
I think back to those must-watch games with the Knicks and Pacers and stuff like that, and even the Houston Rockets there for a while, and the Phoenix Suns. Never had any love for the Nuggets at all. I know when they beat the Supersonics and they were the 8 and they beat the 1, that was like a huge deal. And Dikembe Mutombo's a lovable character and all that, but I don't think the Nuggets ever did themselves any kind of a good service. Like the Broncos and the Rockies, when the Broncos came to Denver, they did these tours where they went up to South Dakota and they went up to Wyoming and Montana and all over to make it the region's teams. And so did the Rocky. We have Mike Lansing Field right here in Cheyenne. They had a single A affiliate, the Casper Ghosts up in Casper. And the Avalanche, they just won the Stanley Cup first year, and everybody got the fever there. But with the Nuggets, I don't recall them ever doing any goodwill anything, and I think they maybe did themselves a real disservice by not doing those things.
I do recall when I was in school back in the early 90s, UW that is, that NBA teams at that time would do exhibition games on college campuses or even high school gyms, wherever they were.
Right.
I don't ever recall the Nuggets coming to Laramie. The Jazz came to Laramie one time because I remember I was a trainer at the time and I'm back in the hallways, and Mark Eaton is the largest human being I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
7'4", 300 pounds.
Ooh,
the guy.
yeah.
And then they were playing the Atlanta Hawks. And Muggsy Bogues.
Oh, yeah.
The shortest guy to ever play in the league. Or maybe it was Spud Webb, one of the two. Yeah. Whoever was on the Hawks walked by, too, and I was like, oh, my.
Wow.
I'm looking at both these guys going back and forth.
That's a cool idea, though, to do that.
Yeah, and it was an engagement thing. So the Jazz did it, but I don't ever recall the Nuggets doing it.
I don't think the Nuggets... I might be wrong. They might have done this
Maybe
kind
they
of
went
stuff.
to CSU instead.
Maybe. I just don't... I've never owned a pair of Nuggets, anything, shirts, hats, nothing.
But you think about their logos, they're pretty sweet.
They are.
The picks that are crossed, the mountains in the background, those, and then the city ones.
Their old school are awesome.
Those are really cool logos.
Yeah.
And if I were to buy an NBA team's logo, a shirt today, it would be the Pickaxe one.
Right.
Yep.
Do you think it's safe to say there's more Utah Jazz fans in Wyoming than there is Nuggets fans?
On the western side of the state, absolutely.
Well, and the Jazz had a lot of success.
Yeah.
And this is obviously the Nuggets' first trip to the NBA Finals.
I think it's what have you done for me lately, so there's probably more Nuggets right now. If you see one of those boomer maps that covers the state.
It reminds me of 2007 when, of course, I was a complete degenerate. I would watch every single Phillies game, and we didn't have DVR, so I had to be in my seat to watch every game, 5:05. And was going to the gym a lot in those days, and all of a sudden the Rockies win 23 or 24 in a row, and everybody's a Rockies fan all of a sudden, and then they sweep the Phillies in the first round of the playoffs, and it's absolutely infuriating. I don't feel that toward the Nuggets. Obviously, I don't care about the NBA at all, and I'm happy for people who are actually Nuggets fans, but I just was thinking about that today. They never grabbed a young Cody for sure at all, and they were terrible. They were when I was a kid. But
well, and watching part of the Celtics game last night, they were down 3-0, now it's 3-2. I would like to see them come back and win it, be the first team to come back from a 3-0 deficit. Yeah. And I was a Celtics fan in high school and in junior high because of Larry Bird. Unfortunately, Danny Ainge, Dennis Johnson.
Kevin McHale.
Yeah, Kevin McHale. Yeah. There's a couple others I'm missing, but those were fun teams to watch.
Yeah, and I was a Dallas Mavericks fan if I ever was a fan of anybody, and that's because living in Dallas, we didn't have cable, and the Mavericks were on every night, and I think the only team they ever beat during that time was the Nuggets. I mean, I don't even think they won double-digit games the year I lived in Dallas, but they were on every night, watched them. But the Nuggets, I was thinking about that this weekend, that I don't know if they've grabbed anybody. I think when they got Carmelo, that probably grabbed a lot of the younger kids now, like Kyle Cedar, our former coworker. He likes the Nuggets because of somebody like that who came in and gave them hope. But when we were a kid, I mean, the one thing I remember is Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf not standing up for the national anthem. Yep. That's about all I remember about the Nuggets aside from Mutombo.
Well, and the first time I ever went to any event at McNichols Arena, it was a Queensryche concert.
Yeah, I never even went to McNichols Arena, and I'm sad to say that.
And then I saw Bob Seger there, but I don't think I ever saw a sporting event there.
Well, it's funny, you watch that 30 for 30, Elway or Marino and all that. The coolest thing I think they showed in that was Dan Reeves was sitting front row at a Nuggets game that night, and they were like, oh, Dan Reeves just left because they're about to sign John Elway out at Stapleton Airport. They're on a plane getting ready to sign John Elway. So that was probably the most excitement in Nuggets history to that point.
Well, to switch back to when you opened this podcast, you said 99 days.
Yes.
So the first thing I thought of when you said 99 was my favorite player to ever wear 99 at Wyoming, Kurt Whitehead. Yeah. And he is a good friend of mine. Yeah. So that's why. Do you relate jersey numbers?
Oh, totally.
You can remember probably 4 guys, that wore whatever.
Yeah.
That's how I used to remember phone numbers.
Me too. I still do to this day.
Yeah. Because you don't really remember phone numbers anymore because they're in your phone.
Yeah.
But back when you had the dial-up phones, it was like, it's Marcus Harris, Kurt Whitehead, $23.99.
Yep, I do the same. I still do that to this day. And speaking of 99, some of you probably noticed I relaunched the Who Wore It Best series because we have 99 days left. So today I believe 99 was David Adine. I didn't even look at my own story yet, but I'm pretty sure it was David Adine.
And Kurt Whitehead's probably your honorable mention.
Yep, probably so. Yep. So, launching that again. I know it was very well received the first time it came out. And I thought, hell, there's 99 days left. Let's just do it again to get through the summer.
And just to talk about it, since you said David Adine, 5 sacks against BYU in 1988 under the lights.
Yes. Oh, what a night,
Suck
man.
that, BYU.
And speaking of BYU, the Reed family, your favorites over there in Provo.
The Stormin' Mormons.
Yeah, they made it to the final here in our biggest villains in basketball history series we're doing. Them versus Rick Majerus. I didn't know if Majerus was going to hang on to beat Danny Ainge yesterday, but he did. I don't know. Who do you hate worse, Ainge or Majerus?
Well, I never got to see Ainge play in Wyoming or against Wyoming. So I had to go with Majerus in that, and just because I saw him firsthand and I know people who actually worked under him, he was just a horrible human being to other people. Yeah. Now, great basketball mind, and he loved some of his players. Mm-hmm. He didn't love all of them. He didn't even like some of his players.
Reading up on him and actually reading some stories, he was brutal. And this was before the transfer portal, and he was kicking dudes off left and right, and guys were quitting the team left and right. If he was coaching today, he would lose his entire roster.
Oh, absolutely. And I worked the Final Four in 1998 when they played for a national championship. That's when there was a racial slur that was supposedly said. We had the press room full of everybody ready to go. He wouldn't come in. So we had to remove everybody, and the only person he would talk to in the beginning was Leslie Visser.
Really?
So they talked, and then they opened the doors, and he only took like 1 or 2 questions.
Was it Majerus who literally had a racial slur was thrown by him?
Oh, no, that's allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
So anyway, I can't remember the outcome of that. But then on Sunday night, they had like 45 minutes for practice because it's the last game of the year. You know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. He practiced for 2 hours.
Wow.
And it wasn't an easy practice. So we're sitting there twiddling our thumbs waiting for him to get off the court. And they ran out of gas against Kentucky the next night. So
yeah, and what a run by the Utes. I do remember that. Yep. They were really, really good. Reading about him, though, he was a disaster. Just meaner than hell. And he got into it with Paul Roach, of all people, and got into it with Benny Dees. And
I know a female athletic trainer who was at Wyoming, who was then at Utah. She was covering a Ute practice. She was the women's basketball trainer, but something she just had to sit up in the stands and be there. Mm-hmm. And he yelled to one of his assistants, "Who let that bleep in here? Get her the bleep out of my gym."
Wow.
So she just got up and walked down the tunnel and says, "I'll be down here if you need me."
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd read about his own guys just couldn't stand him, and he was just brutal.
I've heard in other stories, and I don't want to say the next one. It's too brutal.
Well, what was cool was talking to Josh Davis about how special it was to beat them to win the Mountain West title in, 01 or 02? 02, yeah, to win that game in Laramie, and how special that atmosphere was. And, of course, we were there. I mean, that atmosphere was unbelievable, second to none. So that was special. But if you think about it, Wyoming's kind of coming out party, too, was against Majerus, and I believe they were ranked 4th in the country, and it was a big Monday game. And, of course, McFall to Davis for the 3-quarter alley-oop that was just blew the roof off that place.
And I'm sure all you listeners remember that game. Go to YouTube and watch it. That little piece on McFall, because Bob Carpenter, Jimmy Dykes, who did all the big Monday games, they loved coming to Laramie during that time. And they were talking about, doing the guns in the holsters. Mm-hmm. You might have to face Utah again. And then that play happened. They're like, oh my, there's a party going on in Laramie tonight.
Yes, there was.
And that, I think, put them up by 30.
Yeah, it was a blowout. Absolute blowout. So Josh mentioned those two, excuse me, of course, mentioned those two games, but he also mentioned he played with Brenton Johnson overseas, and they played on the same team, and he didn't give me anything, but he was like, let's just say that he was not beloved even by his own players, and that they were happier than hell to get out of there. Mm-hmm. So he just wouldn't survive today, and I think maybe what I was reading about Majerus is maybe a little bit about like what a practice with Jeff Linder might have been like last year, and you just cannot do it anymore.
Well, and I think it was that game in Laramie that we talked about when they were 4th. He flew home on the Huntsman's private jet, and he took Andre Miller and not Doliak, but the other Van Horn with him on the plane. I think Van Horn was on that team.
I think so.
I could be wrong, but he took 2 players on the plane. Everybody else had to spend the night, drive down to Denver the next morning, and go home.
That's nice of him.
Yeah.
And then he had the weird thing where he never got a house the whole time he lived there. He lived in a hotel.
Marriott.
Yeah.
Yep. And then he had a treadmill after he had his heart problems that had a reserved for Rick Majerus during 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. every day, and he was never on it.
Well, hell of a coach. He was definitely a hell of a coach. Mind. And then talking to like Kevin McKinney, he recalls him definitely slamming the scorer's table. And
the phone went off the hook, all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, he would not make it in today's basketball. No. And, a guy I was fortunate to cover for a couple of years is Tom Izzo, and you can even tell he was that type of guy. But you can tell he's even toned it down 100 notches, and you have to survive these days.
Well, and after Rick left Utah, he went to St. Louis and turned that program around.
Yeah, he did.
The Billikens were actually relevant.
Yeah. Oh, he was a hell of a coach, no doubt about it. And I don't recall the Reed brothers playing, but just seeing the comments from fans and how much they couldn't stand him.
Well, it made it worse because their dad was a coach.
Yeah.
Favoritism. They were great players, don't get me wrong. Well, good players. I don't want to give them too much credit. But the student section chanted some pretty unsavory words when those two guys had the ball.
I missed the Wyoming student section.
There wouldn't be a student section today if they said what they were saying.
Yeah.
So
in doing this research too, Frank Arnold, he sounded like he was just a peach. Like, would point up in the stands if he saw a fan actually.
Or another P word.
Yeah. 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 I mean, he would literally talk about the fans. Obviously, he called Wyoming fans despicable, but he would actually point up into the crowd and during media timeouts and have a cop come over and he'd point people out to go get him out of the crowd. And then he would actually turn and face the crowd. And I mean, can you imagine what a lightning rod that guy had to have been?
Well, it goes to show you, too, how relevant BYU and Utah are and have been in basketball.
Yeah.
And that they're no longer in the league.
Yeah.
And how maybe non-relevant CSU has been in basketball to the rivalry.
Yes.
Because
great point.
Those guys didn't make it this far.
Great point. I mean, think about this, fans. Who in CSU history do you just loathe? And I saw people say Paco Larson. I don't even remember him.
Yeah. And that was before years in my time and probably a lot of our readers.
Yeah. Do you hate David Roddy?
No.
Like, not at all.
I don't like
Isaiah
him
Stevens?
because he didn't come to Wyoming, but
Yeah.
But Ike Palmer was a guy that just, because he had big games against Wyoming, and he was just a cocky little jerk.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's what rivalries are all about, and I'm sure they hated Josh Adams.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
they still do for what he said on senior night.
Absolutely. And that's the thing with this villains thing. It's not all just being a crusty jerk and aiming stuff toward Wyoming. It's beating Wyoming. And
I
beating
bet you
them every
Danny
year.
Ainge probably never said anything bad about Wyoming.
Yeah.
He just kicked their butt
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah.
And he was just that little tiny Mormon on the court.
Yeah,
You know,
frustrating.
Yeah, exactly.
Fits the stereotype.
Yep, just like the Reed brothers.
But like Michael Smith.
Yeah.
Reading up on him, he fit the mold. And in that ESPN article, which is just terrific.
Blonde hair, blue eyes.
Square jaw. He's at a bachelor party at a Pizza Hut. They're drinking like non-caffeinated soda and leave before 10 o'clock. And the dad's like, I can't believe you bleached your hair blonde. And I mean, that's what makes them hateable. It's so frustrating. But yeah, with CSU, that's a wonderful point. I think, their former head coach, Larry Stacey's a lightning rod, of course, because of the things he did and off the court and everything. And that was before he was even at CSU. Yeah. And then I think of a guy like Rafael Araujo. He was in my era, and we hated him because we're like, oh, now we can have tattoos?
Well, what I didn't like about him and the Mountain West Conference at the time, that he slugged that guy from San Diego State, plain as day. Mm-hmm. Video review showed it, still pictures showed it, and they didn't suspend him before the Mountain West tournament. And who did Wyoming have to play in the first round? Yeah. BYU.
And he never lost to never lost to Wyoming. He had some huge
he was
games.
A beast, though.
He was really
big
good.
Dude.
I just remember seeing those tats and thinking, "Are you kidding? They're letting this slide now?" So. Because they found this guy landed in their lap, so now tattoos are okay.
And if you guys haven't read some of these articles, go back and read them, because Cody did some in-depth research and about BYU photoshopping their media guides and all that kind of stuff. So go back and read that stuff.
Yeah, they're fun, man. And his name is slipping my mind, but the CSU guy who David, his name's slipping my mind, but he was
Turcotte.
Turcotte. I actually talked to him. Basketball guys are a pain in the ass to get a hold of, by the way. I tried reaching out for every single one of these stories and really swung and missed.
You mean Randy and Robbie Reed didn't get back to you?
They did not.
Oh,
okay. But David Turcotte did get back to me late, unfortunately. But he loved it. He got a kick out of the fact that Wyoming fans hated him, and he loved the rivalry and started sharing some stories with me about it. And he was, he had huge games against Wyoming. And Sean Dent was saying, man, I'm glad they didn't put me on him. They'd let Turk Boyd do it because he was bigger and he was just good. He was really good. So he shared it on his personal Facebook and said, I bet nobody else has an entire state that hates him like I do. And he had like 50 comments under it. It was
cool.
It was great. And then, just more transparency for you. I reached out to a guy like Sly Johnson who played for the Cowboys, and I said, hey, I'm doing a story about the biggest villains in Wyoming history, and was going to ask him some questions. And he was like, sounds negative, and then he blocked me. And I'm thinking, what is the matter with you? This is all in fun. I mean, yeah, some of us probably truly have some hatred for a lot of these guys, but it's all in fun. And really, they were just a pain in Wyoming's ass.
You're lost, Sly.
Yeah, weird. Really weird.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
At least 2 weeks, I think. Maybe 3 since we've done one.
I think 3, because I was looking back, and Wyoming signed Carson May, a former four-star quarterback who originally committed to Iowa out of high school. That's the last time he signed the day after our last podcast. So, unfortunately, Carson May is not eligible this year. He will not be able to play because he spent the spring at a junior college. So,
I bet you he transfers before he even puts on a uniform.
Oh yeah, boy, I heard
Here comes
that.
those comments.
Yep. And he's just the third prospect in program history with that many stars behind his name. Of course, Deshaun Woods, who left the program. I don't know if left the program's the right thing to say. Maybe he was asked to leave the program this offseason.
Hopefully he's the first one that actually plays.
Yeah, exactly. John Hawk, the other one, he was a JUCO guy back in Dimmel's era. Dimmel didn't even remember him. That's how impactful this guy was. But Carson May spent the spring at Coffeyville Community College over in Kansas. So because of transfer rules, he's not eligible this year. But The guy threw for 8,549 yards and 107 touchdowns during his career at Jones High School in Oklahoma. He was really lightly recruited, I think, because he played 2A football in Oklahoma. He did get offers from Western Michigan and Old Dominion, and then he eventually signed with Iowa, who was also after him. He was ranked the 13th pro-style quarterback in the country, according to Rivals. The Oklahoma newspaper had him ranked number 30th in the state. He was the only quarterback, actually, to land on that list from Oklahoma City's newspaper. He was also the 2A Player of the Year as a senior, 3,082 passing yards and 37 touchdowns. He also rushed for 500 yards and found the end zone 11 times on the ground. So those numbers would suggest he's pretty good. Cowboys needed a quarterback. Coach Bull said he didn't feel comfortable going into the spring with only 3. Technically, he has 5, but 2 of them, Caden Anderson, the kid out of Dallas, the true freshman, probably won't be ready with his torn ACL, and then, of course, Carson May will not be eligible to play this year. So, Caden Becker, of course, now at Nebraska. He was in the Cowboys quarterback room last year. He is now trying to be a tight end over in Lincoln. And Hank Gibbs, I believe, signed with Northern Colorado.
You know what I did? Yeah, I think that's
pretty
right.
sure Hank's there. So the Cowboys are down to Andrew Peasley, Jaden Clemens, and Big Evan Swoboda. So, yeah, it has been a while. You went on an awesome vacation. I got to see the pictures and live through you a little bit.
Yeah, shout out to our friends Deb and Dennis Dagner for having us down. His company is a big sponsor of this music fest in Cherokee Creek, Texas, of all places, out in the middle of nowhere. It's on this guy's ranch.
I love Texas in general. Middle of nowhere cities,
and
I love it all.
This guy has a lot of money. He has his own recording label, even. Anyway, so he has Friday nights, kind of a mix match of genres, and then a huge rainstorm came in, and then Saturday was pretty much all Texas country. Lyle Lovett was the headliner, but we got to see Cody Canada, one of my favorites, who was the head man for Cross Canadian Ragweed, and actually got to talk to him, get pictures with him, hang out and drink a beer with him afterwards. Nice. It was fun. That's cool. I gave him a koozie when I met him in the afternoon, one of the Lucky Buffalo koozies that say WIAF on them, and he's using it the rest of the night, drinking beer out of it. Awesome. So I got pictures with him with it.
That's cool.
So that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was awesome. And then I know you like your Texas barbecue, Cody.
Yes, I do.
Who doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Or some people say Kansas City barbecue. Well, Texas, in my mind, still has the best barbecue.
Yes. And
we went to a place in Llano, Texas, which is Llano. I don't know how you get that pronunciation out of that, but anyway, you do. And Cooper's Old Time Barbecue. And the best burnt ends I have ever had.
Oh, that's saying a lot, too.
I mean, and it's a German-style barbecue, too. I didn't realize that German-style barbecue was a thing.
I think they're the ones who started the whole shebang, honestly.
They had German-style potato salad, so it had a little bit of a vinegar hint to it. So good. And they didn't have true barbecue sauce, like the thick, sugary sauce. It was vinegary, almost like water.
That's what they dab it with all day long.
And they said, "Do you want sauce on it?" They took the whole hunk that you bought, dipped it in the vat, and brought it back out. And then they had little servings of it if you wanted to dip more in it. It was so good. So if you guys get a chance, it's worth the drive.
And it's
out
in the hill
country. Yep.
Yeah. I'm going to Texas next month, so no plans aside from really barbecue and heading to the beach. So
nice.
And Whataburger.
Do we get to see any pictures of you on the beach?
If you want.
All right.
We're gonna do a 7220 calendar shoot.
There's a Pistol Pete Speedo out.
Oh,
that you might have to have for the beach.
I didn't know that was a thing. I will definitely get that.
I don't think it is, but I think we can talk to the swim coach and get a bucking horse Speedo for you.
How about Matt Lenning? He could probably figure something out.
Possibly, but all those swimmers and divers, they probably have like 28 waists.
Yeah.
Or even smaller.
Yeah, that's my thigh.
Don't know if we could get one. Yeah, get over one leg, let alone your waist.
And I'll have to pack a bunch of extra socks to wear the Speedo, so...
Well, when it's that tight, it might be all right. What did you do in the last 3 weeks?
Nothing.
Take care of Holly?
Yep, raised a baby. That's about it. I'm ready for a vacation, though. And that's, let's be real, guys. It's the dead time. Yep. There's not anything going on anymore. Jared's going to run down kind of what Wyoming finished in the other Olympic sports here. But there's not much going on. So it's vacation time soon.
I know you're not a golf fan, but
I did watch that.
Michael Block, who is a true PGA professional, a head pro in California, places 15th, wins $288,000 last week in the PGA Championship, gets off to a very rough start yesterday in the Colonial down in Fort Worth, but he's still having fun. But I heard an interview with him this week, and it's so interesting. He's using clubs that are 9 years old in his bag.
Really?
And he said that he doesn't have any grooves left on his 5, 7, and 9 irons. Like the groove, there is nothing left. And that's what these pros use to get spin on their ball, the grooves on the club. And he goes, if it's not broke, don't fix it. He goes, I'm just out there having fun, guys. And then they said, well, are you looking at getting your card? And he goes, no, I do not want to have my PGA card. I don't want to go on tour.
He's the one who hit the hole in one, right?
Yeah, then he hits the hole in one.
Yeah.
And that's how the conversation came in. He goes, I've been offered more money than I make in a year for my 7 iron that I hit the hole in one with. Well, are you going to sell it? And he goes, I don't know. There's no grooves left on it. I don't know why anybody wants it.
I love that. I did watch some interviews with him. He is just a dude.
He's gonna be in the media. I bet you. He'll end up. He signed with a marketing agency yesterday.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like Tin Cup. All of a sudden, he has these logos appearing on his shirt that he didn't have before. So
well, it reminded me of Happy Gilmore too, because he hits the hole in one, and everybody wants to talk to him, and nobody wants to talk to the guy who actually won the whole thing.
Yep.
So that was good. What a cool moment. Of course, my buddy had golf on in the background, and it's just white noise to me, but that was incredible.
And on Saturday night, I mean, he's in the final pairing with Rory McIlroy on Sunday. Saturday night, he knows that. He went straight from the club, doesn't shower, wears the same clothes. He had his credentials hanging on his neck. Went to a local pub.
Awesome.
In Buffalo, or right outside Rochester.
Rochester, yeah.
And he's just drinking beers with dudes.
I love that.
Everybody else is at home probably drinking their red wine, having one, and then having their masseuse work on them, their swing coach analyzing stuff, and he's out having beers.
Their private jets. Yeah, I love it. Speaking of, I did notice the Wyoming Cowboys had a really good Mountain West tournament, the golf team.
Yes, they did.
Really good.
Shout out to Joe Jensen and the group there. Great finish there. And then they go on to, they place second in the Golf Week National Golf Invite.
Yep.
And that's just
and they were leading it.
Yeah. Going in the last day, yeah. That's just another stepping stone for this program. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to say that, golf's not that big of a deal because you're in Wyoming and they never place better than 5th. Well, Mountain West has really, really good golf programs. San Diego State, UNLV, New Mexico, and even CSU, always up there.
Yeah.
Boise State turns out PGA guys. For Wyoming to place 5th, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Because you're in the coldest market in the Mountain West.
You're never home.
Never home. They host tournaments in Palm Desert and in Phoenix all the time. Mm-hmm. And so Joe's doing a really, really good job with that program. And that just goes to show how good of a recruiter he is in developing these guys. And then a couple of guys won their qualifiers to possibly go to the U.S. Open.
Yep.
They didn't make it to the next. They went to the next round, didn't make it to the third round. But that's just
momentum.
Just goes, and he's always turning out academic guys too.
Yeah,
I mean that team is always up there in the academics.
His top 2 guys were 4.0 guys, and They, I was reading through it. They actually led on the final day too. They just fell short, I believe, on like the 15th or 16th hole. They got overtaken.
How many holes
by
are
Texas
there?
State. 18.
Okay,
19, right?
Well, 19, yeah, for some cervezas, but
yeah, they finally Texas State got them in the end. But I was following that every day when Wyoming would send out their press release. I'd be like, wow, they're in first place, and there were some dudes in that tournament, that Golf Week tournament too. So,
well, and then another Olympic sport, UW Tennis, the Mountain West regular season champs. They go on to the Universal Tennis NIT and go 2-1 during the event, and that was on Amazon Prime if you wanted to watch it.
It was,
so it was a televised event, and
that's our first postseason wins.
Shout out to them, and they ended up 65th in the overall rankings for the end of the year, and so shout out to Dean Clower and the Cowgirl tennis team.
A lot of really good. The Olympic sports had a hell of a year this year. I think wrestling's arguably the main one that most people have an eye on, and they kind of had a down year, but they got some dudes too.
Talking about that program, Mark Branch has flat out said, he goes, 2022-23 is behind us. Mm-hmm. He goes, we are not going back there. He goes, 23-24 is going to be totally different. We have some guys. He goes, we have so many guys in our wrestling room right now. I don't know who's going to be in the lineup. That's how deep they are.
Awesome.
And they've had 2 consecutive top 15 recruiting classes, if I'm not mistaken. So he's ready to put some, and he's not, he's pissed off about last year.
Oh, yeah.
About when the transfer portal, injuries, people lying to him.
Yeah.
He's ready to go.
Oh, he was posting all over social media. He's very open about his disdain for last year. Yep. Reminded me a lot of Craig Bull being so pissed off during the COVID year. Yep. That is behind them.
And then Kareem Mursal qualified for the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships in Austin in the long jump. So congratulations and good luck to him.
Yeah, the Egyptian. That's cool, man. Yeah, they've had all the Olympic sports. I mean, women's soccer had a great year, and then it just came right over. I think volleyball obviously has a new coach in Priggy, and
she signed a couple of transfers.
Yeah. Who was I seeing? I think it was women's golf. They actually signed a transfer from Colorado State.
Yeah, a 5th or 6th year senior, and just she's out not eligibility obviously, but she just wants to change of pace, and maybe they were like, we need some younger people in our program, so. Good luck to you, and I mean, hopefully she'll bring some, stability to the Cowgirl program too.
Can you imagine what it's going to be like when we finally see it, and it's going to happen when a Wyoming guy goes to Colorado State in football or vice versa? And I did know Solomon Byrd was in deep talks with Colorado State before he went to USC, or before he went to Georgia Tech, then USC. He was definitely on the open market, you'd say. I had sources down in Fort Collins telling me he's likely signing with the Rams.
It'll probably happen. I mean, like Ducell goes to Fresno State.
Yeah.
So glad he didn't go down there. Because what if he would have hit like 3 threes in the game and one of them buried the Cowboys or something?
It's going to happen.
It will.
And remember when Rum Weber first entered the transfer portal, his first offer was from Colorado State, and he couldn't wait to post that on social media. And people were freaking out. So it's going to happen. Hopefully it's the other way. Hopefully somebody comes up here from there and really, it's going to spark some stuff for sure. I mean, the rivalry's already hot as always, but that's really going to spark some stuff.
Other news that came out of Laramie is Bo Clark, the UW rodeo coach, after winning the Rocky Mountain region, both for the Cowgirls and Cowboys, resigned. And I say that in quotations because you don't resign at an end of a successful season right before the National Finals Rodeo.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where most likely forced to resign, so it doesn't show that he was fired on a resume. That happens all the time in sports.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so I think there's going to be more coming out about what happened there, but I don't know. Kind of weird.
Yeah. Odd timing. I noticed when I put up that story, everybody said, this does not look normal.
Yep.
Some other news that came out kind of cool. I guess it's just goodwill type stuff, but Blacktooth Brewery putting out a couple of beers. You tried the one yesterday.
I got to go to the designs first of all.
Yeah.
And the collaboration between the state to use the state mark on a beer can, first of all, with the license. Those were my favorite license plates of all time. White background, the brown wood fence with the just love it. The Wyoming Golden Ale, I hope they're going to tweak it a little bit. And it tasted to me like one of Cody's favorite beer, not one of.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, but the aftertaste just had something that I didn't like about it.
You had to shovel your face with popcorn to get rid of it.
But the can designs, the merchandise designs, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Great job with that. And I'm actually wearing a long sleeve t-shirt right now with the design on because I just I have to have that. And I bought a 6-pack because the can design is so cool. And where the county on the license plate would be like a 2 for Cheyenne, it is 44. And that's for the 44th state, the union. And then the barcode on it is 04400. Obviously for the 44th state, and 4402 is the largest margin of victory against CSU.
And that was a great day. That was not even a great Wyoming team, and that was
an ass kick. It was what it was.
Beautiful day.
And then there's also hidden on the can too. I think it's 33 for the 33rd governor, Mark Gordon, and it's hidden. You can see it on the can, but you have to look for it. But that's for having him be involved in helping get this thing done.
And then you said the Pistol Pete cans will come out in the fall?
Yeah, so the license plate cans are Memorial Day to Labor Day for the summer season, and then the Pistol Pete cans will be for the school year, and they're going to be sold at games.
The cans do look cool, no doubt about it, so I'm going to have to live through you, and you'll have to tell me if it gets better or worse.
You can try.
I can't do that to Coors. Can't they just put a bucking horse on a Coors can? All the good stuff in Coors comes from Wyoming anyway.
The hops, the barley.
Yep. And the water just comes from God, so it's perfect. Excuse me. Jared, you guys have noticed, I noticed in the page views, started a new column on the gambling side, I guess, the sports betting side of Wyoming Athletics. I know you like to pay attention to that. I don't know how many shekels you actually put down, but I know you like to pay attention to.
I used to do a lot, and there's no lie there. When I got out of college athletics, I was like, you know what? Never really done this before. Let's do it. Yep. You know, I dabbled a little bit when I was in college. Just somebody introduced me to a guy back then you actually went through a guy who went through a guy.
Yeah.
But
super safe.
It was like $5-10 type, BS back then. But now online betting has just made it easier for everyone to be involved. Of course, you don't have to go to Vegas or go illegally through a bookie. So I pay attention to it and just saying, oh, what could have been, you know, and like, oh, I'm glad I didn't do that type of deal more than anything. But the DraftKings, they were the first one that I saw that came out with their over-unders for the group of 5. They have everybody, but the group of 5 for sure. And they had Wyoming at 6.5 wins total for the season. And you start looking at the schedule, and I was like, 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2. And you look it up, and with 7 home games, Wyoming's going to get to 6.5 wins.
Yeah.
They're going to be in a bowl game again. Their defense is too good. Mm-hmm. Offense, we don't know yet.
Yeah. Well, we are, like we said, 99 days away from Texas Tech coming to Laramie, and I'm seeing a lot of Tech fans already just saying, this is going to be a bloodbath, this is going to be a blowout, and you're just thinking, you guys have done no homework, you have no idea what you're coming into here.
But some people are saying Texas Tech is a dark horse to make the playoffs.
I think they're really good.
Yeah.
I really do, but I think Laramie sold out opening day.
It better be sold out.
It's got to be. Hot.
I mean, Oregon didn't sell out, though.
That defense, it didn't?
No.
That's crazy. I even flew from Michigan for that one.
Yeah, it wasn't an official sellout.
Yeah. No, I think that, the Big 12 obviously is known for their high-octane offenses. They're not known for their defense, especially run defense. The Cowboys are going to throw everything at them in the running game.
Ding, ding, Harrison Whaley.
Yep. I think, and DeWine McNeely,
Yep.
I mean, DQ James, they're all going to be back for that opener, and I think that's going to be, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I think a lot, this reminds me a lot of the Missouri game. It really does. Kelly Bryant's coming in. Nobody thought Wyoming had a shot in hell. Of course, Missouri jumps out to a 14-0 lead just like that, and it looked like it was going to be scary and go off the rails like so many of these Power 5 teams who've come into the War Memorial Stadium have done. And then the Cowboys just got off the mat, man, and I think Wyoming's defense, I know we talk about it every single podcast, and, I know Jay Sawville's not crazy about me talking about it so often. He's told me, but I think the defense is just going to be lights out, and they're deeper than we've seen maybe ever at almost every position, and, every year we go in talking about the defense saying, what's the weakness? And it always seems to be at the cornerback spot. I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore. I'd be more than willing to say Tyreek Davis and Colby Taylor they're arguably the starters on opening day, and which is, it's because of their play, but also, Ja'Cory Hawkins has been out all spring. He missed all spring with an injury. So, name slipped my mind. Wisconsin transfer. Oh, names totally slipped my mind here, but those guys were out.
Yep.
And Tyreek Davis and Colby Taylor were slipping off of Craig Bull's tongue all spring. So I think they're going to be really good. And, Texas Tech, I think they're going to get their yards and everything, but the one thing the Cowboys defense has not excelled at since, 2017 is turnovers. And I think that changes this year, and that changes with all that depth. You got guys coming in full speed every single snap. So, Deron Harrell is who I was trying to think of from Wisconsin. But I think, you got fresh guys on every snap. And, that's what leads to turnovers. Craig Bowl talks about it all the time. You can practice it all you want, but really it's about who's the more athletic team. And I think Wyoming's going to be very athletic on that side of the ball. And really, guys, I know we've heard this over and over and over again, but I think the tight ends are really going to play a role this year. I really do. Trayton Welch is just too good. He's got, they all say he's got the best hands on the team. He can go up and get those 50-50 balls as we saw last year. And then John Michael Gillenborg is he's lightning fast, and he's a big dude, and I know they're really, really excited about him. So I don't know. I'm optimistic. I certainly don't see any kind of a blowout. I don't know why anybody would be talking about that, especially Texas Tech fans. To me, that's just giving Wyoming no respect and thinking they're coming into a little P5 school and going to roll.
It's fun to talk smack right now.
It is.
It's for sure.
It is.
And if hopefully they bring a good crowd, which I'm sure they'll have at least 1,500 people there. Mm-hmm. So it'll be fun. It'll be a fun game, fun atmosphere.
I think of Texas Tech kind of as a kindred spirit, too, because I think they're like Lubbock's kind of like the Laramie of the Big 12. Yep. And like Pullman is the, Laramie of the Pac-12. And Starksville is kind of the Laramie of the SEC.
Well, and you've heard possibly the actual TV schedule is going to be out here any day now.
Soon, yeah.
So hopefully that game is on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 o'clock window, Saturday afternoon, first game of the year type of deal. Now, if it's moved, embrace it, folks.
Yeah.
We're in that age. You have to embrace the moving of the games to a Friday night or a Thursday night, whatever it may be. Yeah. Just live with it, show up, and root on the Pokes.
Yeah, that's
because
fun, man.
One of those games, maybe even two, of those first 7 games is going to be on a weeknight.
Oh, yeah.
It's just going to happen.
Yeah, most likely.
And I'd be shocked if it didn't. So.
Yep.
But go back to DraftKings, 6.5 win total. FanDuel, I saw, has it at 5.5 over under. So shop around for your best odds before you place any bets. That's my advice to you. Don't take my picks if you don't want to, but always shop around for the best odds.
Well, you know what my thoughts are on this whole thing is I go to Wyoming's road schedule immediately. Texas is a bear. That's going to be brutal. It's going to be tough. Can the Cowboys win there? Yeah. I think when you have a great defense, you can win anywhere. But it's going to be tough. But if you think about it, I think it's so favorable. They play at Colorado Springs. Wyoming and Air Force are always battling it out. That series is only... I think Air Force has a 3-game lead in that series, and those teams win at home and away. So Air Force, I like that game. There's a ton of Wyoming fans there. It's almost like another home game, in my opinion. But then you have Nevada, who's obviously down. You have UNLV, who's rebuilding, and you have Boise State. Those are your road games. I love that. Mm-hmm. In November, 2 of your games are in Nevada. Yep. I don't hate that at all.
And neither one will have more than 15,000 fans at them.
Exactly.
And a lot of them will be Wyoming fans.
Yeah, I love the way the Cowboys schedule plays out. And you have to think that all those home games, you have to think they're not going to lose more than 1 or 2 home games, if at all. You really do. And I know people are giving a ton of credit to Appalachian State. I know they have earned it over the years, but the Cowboys have to win that game.
Yep.
So... Athlon this week came out with their All-Mountain West team, and we see here John Hoyland was named a preseason second-team All-American, Wyoming's place kicker, of course. What a great career he's had. Speaking of Nevada, was at his first game ever when he got called, and Wally pipped Luke Glassick, came in and made 4 field goals against the Wolfpack in that very first game of the COVID season. And hasn't looked back. He was 22 of 25 last year, including a long of 55. He was 4 of 5 from kicks beyond 50 yards, and he was a perfect 28 for 28 in the PAT department. So congratulations to him. I think he's probably going to be a Lou Groza type of finalist this year. Really good kicker, and that's just an invaluable commodity this day and age. You see it in the NFL all the time. Guys can't even make PATs anymore. So really special guy. The Cowboys land 13 players on the All-Mountain West team. 6 of those are first-team guys. I'm telling you, man, this everybody, I see so much pessimism, within the fan base. And I mean, 6 of these guys are first team All Mountain West, and they're all more than deserving, starting with Harrison Whaley, who hasn't even worn a Wyoming uniform yet. He is their pick for the top running back in the Mountain West Conference. Frank Crum, who's making the move over to left tackle from right tackle to protect Andrew Peasley's blind side this year. He's also on the team. So is Cole Goodbow and Jordan Bernali. We've said it all along. That's the best defensive tackle tandem probably in the country, definitely in the Mountain West. And then Easton Gibbs, middle linebacker, he is another very deserving candidate. 121 tackles last year. That's 48 more than his running mate on the outside, Shea Suianoa. And then, of course, John Hoyland. Tight end Trayton Welch, center Noah Fia Tulifono, also edge rusher Devon Harris made the second team. Defensive end Braden Siders was the only Cowboy to land on the third team. Suianoa and safety Wyatt Eckler, along with punter Clayton Stewart, made the fourth team. So, first team offense, too, I noticed Chavin Cordero. Will that guy go away already? The Cowboys don't play San Jose State this year, but he's been in this league for 100 years. And
wasn't he signed originally by Hawaii in like 2010?
Yep. And speak of the devil, George Halani, running back, Boise State, who of course had the big fumble at the end of the game in Laramie. He's been at Boise State forever, since the Obama administration at least. So running back wise, George Halani is he's a horse for sure. And then Ashton Jeanty, their backup running back at Boise State, also named to the first team. So Boise State did have the most. Obviously, we get to vote on our own preseason polls before football season starts. Boise State is probably the pick. They're really good, and it all starts, of course, under center with Taylon Green, their quarterback, who was picked second team by Athlon. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see him on the first team at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. He's a really special player. So, any players come to mind that maybe they left off this list, Jared, for Wyoming?
I would say those defensive backs that you made mention of. Obviously, they haven't worn. 2 of them haven't worn a Wyoming uniform yet, but I think they're going to be. I mean, these guys. Athlon goes all the way to 4 teams.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to really talk about anything at past 3, and sometimes past 2
3,
teams.
you'd say honorable mention.
Yeah. But I think those guys at the end of the year will probably land on there.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned John Michael Gilborg.
Yeah.
Or Gillenborg, sorry.
Yeah, I think he'll be on there, and I think the Cowboys, if things go right this year, Andrew Peasley needs to land on this list.
Yeah. Is one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league.
Yes.
And
he was last year. He was an honorable mention.
There's a possibility that a guy like Dwayne McNeely might sneak up there too, as a third-team guy, honorable mention guy.
I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Jack Walsh, too, on the offensive line. I wouldn't be surprised one bit if he makes this list as well. If all goes well, you hope Andrew Peasley's on this list, and he would need to be if the Cowboys are going to do something special. And then maybe a Wyatt Wieland. You need one of those kind of guys to land on this list as well. A dark horse, a very dark horse, that things would be going really well for the Cowboys if Alex Brown could figure it out and land on this list.
And we're talking, for him to land on the list, we're talking 50 receptions for 750 yards and 6 touchdowns.
If he could do that, imagine what that would do to the
Cowboys win 8 games.
Easy.
Yep.
I mean, we saw it with Isaiah Nair.
Yep.
So if he could do that, I mean, I don't know. I know the big question mark is always going to be on this offense, especially the passing game. So I know that's the main reason for the pessimism, and I get it. I do get it. They need to show us, and they haven't done that. But this year, I really think, we've talked about it before, but I really think they're going to let the training wheels off of Andrew Peasley. Bull mentions all the time that he was in his first year in this system. He came over from Utah State, which just airs it out, and he never took a snap under center the whole time he was in Logan. It is an adjustment, and I know it sounds like a ton of excuses, but learning a pro-style offense coming from that kind of offense, I mean, it'd be like learning a new language. And then on top of that, they didn't allow Andrew to be Andrew and run the ball. How many times, and they were smart, but how many times did he throw the ball away last year?
Well, remember that run that he had up the middle against San Jose State?
Oh, yeah.
He pulled away from
He sure did.
DBs.
He sure did. And if you're going to take a bright spot from the offense at that opener at Illinois, it was him taking the ball in those end rounds, and he if he had one more gear, he probably would have scored at least on one of those.
Slide.
Yeah, please.
Get the first down slide.
Yes, exactly. So Beasley, to me, is the real wild card here. He needs to land on this list. And he's getting no love right now. He was an honorable mention last year. He had some good moments. I mean, the middle portion of the year, he was really good. And they're not saying it, but I feel like he was probably more hurt than we know toward the end because he just did not
that
look
Hawaii
right.
game when he came back in, he could barely walk back to the huddle.
Yeah, he looked rough. He got dinged at CSU.
Hip pointers are, go get one, folks.
Yeah.
Try to walk with it, let alone play football with it.
He got dinged against San Jose State and came back into that game. And Andrew Peasley's he's not a big human being at all. So he just can't take that kind of a beating. But obviously we'll get more into football this summer. Another little bit of tidbit of news. Your buddy's laying down a new rug there at War Memorial Stadium. They're going to get new turf.
Yeah, Jed Easterbrook and Jared Petrino, they both work for Field Turf. Both UW alums in their own right.
Who unfortunately live in Utah.
No.
I
Well,
thought
Jed does.
Yeah.
Jared lives up in Casper.
Oh.
And I say Jared as an alum. I know he went to Carroll College undergrad, but I think he got his master's degree anyway at UW.
Yeah.
But he coached there for a while and worked in the department and stuff. So those guys, it's been a long-lasting relationship with Field Turf, and glad to see it continue. And it's going to be it's not much different of a design, just a little bit tweaks. Like the mountains, they're not the Tetons anymore; they're just mountains. Mm-hmm. And because so many people were angry about that, I was like, "Get over it, folks. They're mountains."
Yeah.
Jeez. And then you see comments, "Well, why isn't it this mountain range? Why isn't it?" They're mountains.
Yeah. It's unique and it's awesome. And think about how good that's going to look opening day against Texas Tech with that brand new carpet down. It's going to look really, really good. So excited for that. I'm pumped for football season, man. I haven't been this excited about an upcoming season in a long time. I mean, last year there were so many question marks surrounding this team that it was kind of like we're all gonna find out together.
But 2 years ago, we had our hearts broke.
Yeah, so it was brutal, and then of course COVID was a complete nightmare. Speaking of which, I don't know what day it is, but June 1st. This has been 4 years now. It'll be the 4-year anniversary of 7220 Sports. It just popped up on my Facebook memories today that I put out a little timid message. I remember putting it out like, hey, we're starting this thing.
And then you release the Fennis Dembo feature and all that stuff. And
it's crazy to think that we're 4 years down the road here, and really thankful to Town Square Media for picking up 7220 because, like so many businesses, COVID damn near did it. Damn near did us in.
Well,
so
we're glad to have you.
Yeah, it's really cool to be here. So
a lot of exciting things coming up.
Yeah. Can't wait to share that kind of news, hopefully, here really soon.
Yeah. And, and congratulations, I guess, to us.
Yeah.
We are a finalist for a WAB award, which is a Wyoming Association of Broadcasters, for our 7220 Sports Kickoff Show.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people were nominated, but we are a finalist.
And we're not exactly radio pros, if you can tell.
We just two guys having fun.
Yeah, we definitely didn't get any formal training with this. They just gave us a microphone and a platform, which is scary.
So stay tuned. We might be bragging about a plaque here in a couple of weeks.
Drinking beer off a plaque here, embarrassing ourselves in public.
There's nothing. Yeah, we're going to have to come up with something that we can actually drink out of with the plaque, if it happens.
We need to have our own bronze boot, I think.
A mini bronze boot?
Yep.
All right.
And we'll just make complete asses of ourselves with this.
There is somebody who makes those little replica bronze boots with it's in the back of a truck.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So maybe we order a couple of those and we drink a little shot out of them.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. A couple little other tidbits that happened this week. Theo Ratliff, congratulations to him. Last week he was named to the Alabama Hall of Fame. That was long overdue.
Yep, State of Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Yep. The Demopolis native, just you guys all know how special he was.
And he's done so much goodwill in his hometown of Demopolis as well. He's opened up some literacy schools, type of deal, and just funded libraries and things like that. So, and just a great
guy.
And at
UW.
Yeah, and at UW, donating to the Arena Project and stuff like that. And he's just a great guy. And I mean, he's putting out some stud athletes himself too. His kids, he has a daughter that plays volleyball at Ole Miss, I believe, or Arkansas, or maybe it was both at some time.
Yeah.
And his twin boys are going to be something, I think, coming up. So
he was a special player. I'd love to go back to figure out how they even snagged him out of Demopolis, Alabama in the first place.
Thad Fitzpatrick is who got that guy. He was a recruiter for Benny D's.
Yeah, Benny kind of had a little footprint down in the South.
Thad Fitzpatrick also got Quinn Higgins.
Yeah.
So.
The biggest what if, who also made the villains list in the injury category. Yeah.
And, that category, that was fun, actually, because we first talked about how many injuries happened at the east basket of the arena, because a lot of those injuries just happened at that same basket, but we wanted to include ones that happened before, and the biggest one that happened before was Mike Jackson.
Yeah, in the field house.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, some really unfortunate injuries when you start looking at down the list at that, and then mono too for a guy like Larry Nance, and then Hunter Maldonado. Obviously, he wouldn't have got an extra year if it wasn't for a back injury and a leg injury he suffered.
But I also remember some of the biggest dunks by Wyoming Cowboys at that East Side basket.
Yeah, we already talked about one.
Yeah,
Josh Davis that's where he hauled
the alley-oop. Josh Adams. When they first wore the throwback unis, he was wearing number 34 of all things. He threw one down on that baseline that was one of his top 5 all time, in my opinion. Yeah. And then another one was Tim Bro against CSU. He threw one, and I think Tim wore 34.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah. He threw one down, and I always called him Bell Biv Timbro because he had that fade like the Bell Biv DeVoe. Other news, this is happening all over college athletics. Mike Bone, longtime AD. He was at CU, Cincinnati, now USC, out. And some of that, I believe, was forced out, though. A lot of weird stuff happened underneath him at USC. Gary Barta, former Wyoming AD. Not much of a legacy at Wyoming because it was kind of a stepping stone. He came from Washington as a senior associate to UW. Next thing you know, he's at Iowa.
Oh.
And he's reporting retiring today, or at the end of this, probably June 30th.
Do you think Mike Bone has anything to do with what Larry Scott, they're finding out what he did in the Pac-12 as far as spending-wise? and
I think, no, because I don't think Bone was there long enough to be under... be associated with Larry Scott. Mm-hmm. I think there's more inner department stuff going on, how he treated certain coaches, and I think there was something he said about a female. Oh. That kind of stuff.
That'll do it. Interesting news, though, coming out of Pullman, Washington, that they're not spending, they overspent last year by a lot. And they're cutting back on their spending and like travel and everything. And that's a Pac-12 budget. And
they just renovated their football stadium, as is Oregon State renovating their football stadium with all of that the TV money. But they don't even have a TV deal right now. They're still negotiating.
Yeah. Well, and they were already on Dish Network.
Well, the Pac-12 network, yeah. That whole... but Larry Scott made $50 million in his 10 years as their rent at their offices in San Jose area in the Bay Area. Look that up. It's astronomical.
Wow.
What they spent on rent.
What do you think, if you had a crystal ball here, what do you think is going to happen to that league? Well, I mean, there's going to be another big shakeup coming, right? I mean,
I still think probably 2 more of those teams go to the Big Ten, which still doesn't make sense.
Stanford.
No.
You don't think? I think Stanford reminds me of a Big Ten program.
Academically, absolutely. But I think it's going to be Washington and Oregon.
Oh.
Yeah.
You don't have a league left.
And then maybe they take the next 4 Pac-12 teams to the Big 12 to make that a Big 16.
Stanford has enough of an endowment, maybe they go independent.
Stanford stays in the Pac-12, inherits Mountain West teams, or those teams are absorbed by the Mountain West. That's my gut.
That'd be so interesting. Yeah, you'd imagine the Big 12 probably would jump on the Arizona schools immediately. Probably San Diego State.
I think it would probably be the two Arizona schools and Cal and Stanford. Yep.
Damn.
Weird.
It's, yeah.
And then that leaves Washington State, Oregon State to...
They'd be great in the Mountain West.
It would be. Yep.
They would be so great.
Oh, well, then we're forgetting CU and Utah. So I'm sorry. It'd be the Arizona schools with CU and Utah to the Big 12, and then Cal and Stanford, Oregon State, Washington State come to the Mountain West, or the Mountain West go to the Pac-12. Yeah, so
I'd take it.
Yeah,
I'd take that.
But is Wyoming included in that?
That's
the question.
Yeah, that's always the scary proposition. I don't know. The way I look at all this movement is just you, unfortunately, are in our position. We can't be. We have to just be reactionary, unfortunately, just to see when the other shoe's going to drop. So, I don't know, man.
Every year it changes, and 5 years from now, we may not even be talking about the Power 5 schools even being associated with Division I athletics. They might have their own association.
Well, the only thing I ever say about this stuff is just as long as we're with CSU, I don't care. Yeah. I don't care where Wyoming ends up as long as we're with
And I don't care if Air Force is included in anything in the future because I just...
Yeah. I would miss that game for sure, but not... it's got to be CSU.
I wouldn't.
Got to be with CSU.
Those cutting bastards.
Yeah, I'm sure the players would
chop
mind.
blocks.
All right, well, per usual, we somehow did an hour.
Yeah, I don't know how. We had nothing to talk about.
I know. That's the problem here, folks, with the podcast is what are we even going to talk about? And we find our way rambling for an hour per usual. So thanks for joining us. As always, our podcast numbers have been growing like a weed, Jared, for sure. So it's really good to see that people are caring. I've actually have people on Twitter that are up my ass, like, when's the next one coming?
I get text messages. Yeah. Joey, leave me alone.
Yeah, I love it. That's cool. So hopefully we'll have some big news coming later on this summer, and maybe have some more different platforms.
And we are still in my basement right now.
Yep.
But I was in the office yesterday. The next podcast will be done from the office.
Yeah, where we'll actually have better equipment.
There's a punch list left to do on some paint touch-ups. Other than that, we're ready to roll.
Awesome. Can't wait. And maybe we can, like we've talked about, add some kind of video element to this thing, too. And
do they really want to see our mugs?
I think so.
Okay.
Especially because we're award-winning radio guys.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Award-nominated.
Oh. Well, I'm just giving us the win now because I heard who we're up against. Oh. And if we lose, we're
both moving.
We're both moving out of state and getting rid of all technology. No phones, no computers, no nothing. So thanks, as always, for joining us. We'll probably catch you this time next week.
Hey there! Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower-than-low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.